Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to flip a switch. Light will flood the room. You won't think twice about it. But for 99.9% of human history, that switch didn't exist. When the sun set, the world went dark. And something in you still remembers that. You call it a fear of the dark. But that's not quite right. Darkness itself is nothing. It's not a monster. It's not a threat. It's just the absence of light. So why does your chest tighten when you walk into an unlit room? Why do your eyes strain to find shapes that aren't there? The real answer is far stranger than fear of the dark. You're not afraid of darkness. You're afraid of what darkness hides. Go back further than you think. Not centuries. Not even thousands of years. Go back millions of years, to a version of you that hadn't invented fire yet, hadn't built walls, hadn't domesticated a single animal that could stand guard through the night. That version of you slept on open ground. Predators hunted then too. And predators, like most things in nature, are lazy. They don't chase what they can ambush. Night is when ambush works best. Here's the part that changes everything. Your eyes are built for daylight. Human vision is extraordinary in bright conditions, sharp, detailed, full of color. But at night, that advantage disappears almost completely. Your night vision is dramatically worse than a cat's, a wolf's, an owl's. Nearly every predator that hunted early humans could see better in darkness than you could. You weren't just vulnerable at night. You were nearly blind compared to the things that wanted to eat you. So a strange kind of math started running in the human brain. Not conscious math. Not something anyone calculated on purpose. Evolutionary math. The kind that doesn't care about your feelings, only about which version of you survives long enough to pass on genes. Psychologists Marty Hazelton and David Buss gave this math a name, error management theory. The idea is simple, but the implications are enormous. Imagine you're standing in a dark field and you hear a rustle in the grass. There are two ways to be wrong. You could think it's a predator, get scared, and it turns out to be wind. Mildly annoying. A wasted jolt of adrenaline. Or you could think it's just wind, relax, and it turns out to be a predator. That mistake doesn't cost you annoyance. It costs you your life. When the two kinds of errors carry wildly different costs, evolution doesn't optimize for accuracy. It optimizes for survival. And survival means erring on the side of fear. Every single time. This is why your ancestors who assumed the worst in the dark were more likely to survive than the ones who stayed calm and rational. Over hundreds of thousands of generations, that bias got baked into the nervous system. Not as a flaw, as a strategy. The anxious ones lived. The calm, logical skeptics, the ones who needed real evidence before reacting, died more often, quietly, out of the historical record. You are the descendant of the paranoid ones. Isn't that a strange thing to sit with? There's another piece to this puzzle, and it comes from evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Ness. He described something called the smoke detector principle. Think about an actual smoke detector in your kitchen. It's calibrated to go off far more often than there's an actual fire. Burnt toast sets it off. Steam from a hot shower sets it off. That's not a design flaw, that's the design. A smoke detector that only ever triggers during real fires would eventually miss one. And missing one fire is far worse than enduring 100 false alarms. Ness argued that fear works the same way in the human body. Your fear response isn't trying to be accurate. It's trying to be safe. It would rather be wrong 900 times in a row, spiking your heart rate over a coat hanging in a dark closet, than be right 0 times and let something dangerous slip past unnoticed. Your fear of the dark isn't a bug in your programming. It's a smoke detector that has been going off, correctly, for millions of years. There's a third thread here, and it comes from developmental psychologist Vanessa Lobu, who studies how early these fears actually appear. Her research on threat detection in young children found something remarkable. Kids as young as toddlers detect certain threatening shapes, like snakes, faster than they detect neutral objects, even before they've ever been taught that snakes are dangerous. The fear doesn't wait for a bad experience to teach it. It's already loaded in, waiting to be activated by the right conditions. Darkness is one of those conditions. It doesn't need to teach you anything. It just needs to remove information, and your brain fills the silence with worst-case scenarios, automatically, instantly, before your conscious mind even catches up. Here's the twist most people never consider. Darkness isn't actually the trigger. Uncertainty is. Think about it. A pitch-black room where you know exactly what's in it, your own bedroom, memorized down to the last detail, rarely triggers real fear. But a dimly lit unfamiliar hallway, where shapes are almost visible but not quite, where you can't tell what that shadow in the corner actually is. That's where the fear spikes hardest. Your brain isn't afraid of the dark itself. It's afraid of the gap between what it can see and what might be there. This is why fear of the dark peaks so intensely in early childhood, usually between ages 2 and 6, right when a child's imagination is developing rapidly but their ability to distinguish real threats from imagined ones is still forming. It's not that children are irrational. It's that their threat detection system is running at full ancestral sensitivity, without the adult layer of context that usually calms it down. In a strange way, a frightened 4-year-old lying awake, certain something is under the bed, is running software more ancient and more evolutionarily correct than the adult brain that tells them to go back to sleep. Now bring this back to you. Tonight. As an adult, with electricity, with locked doors, with a phone flashlight in your pocket. You know, rationally, that nothing is hunting you in the hallway. You know the shadow by the door is just your coat. And yet, some nights, walking from a parking garage to your car, or getting up for water in a dark house, you still feel it that same tightening in your chest that a human felt on open ground 3 million years ago. Your circumstances have changed completely. Your nervous system hasn't caught up. That's the part worth sitting with. You are walking around in a body built by an ancestor who never saw a light bulb, never lived behind a locked door, never had a phone that could summon help in seconds. That ancestor's fear kept them alive long enough to have children, who eventually had you. Every uneasy feeling you've ever had in the dark is, in a strange sense, an inheritance. A message passed down not in words, but in wiring. So the next time the room goes dark and your body tenses before your mind has even processed why, you don't have to see it as irrational. You don't have to be embarrassed by it, or force yourself to just relax. What you're feeling is not a malfunction. It's a smoke detector that has never once, in the entire history of your bloodline, allowed a real threat to go unanswered. It has been right often enough, for long enough, that you exist to feel it at all. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you'll still flip that switch without thinking. But maybe now, when you walk into a dark room and feel that flicker of unease, you'll recognize it for what it actually is. Not fear of the dark. A message from every ancestor who didn't have a switch to flip reminding you, gently, that you're still here because they were afraid first.